Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. Midday's been extremely worried about Round Rocks, which has her pacing back and forth a lot. During one of her random walks, she saw something out of the corner of her eye that looks a lot like the cat Shanoa that's always been hanging around Quick Things. If the cat's there, then it's likely that the Illuminati aren't too far behind, so naturally the two of you go to track it down. The two of you find the cat, and sure enough, an Illuminati spy isn't far off. Sid and Y'shtola take him out, but not before he starts bragging about how once they activate the final core of Alexander, they'll be able to travel through time and be unstoppable. The whole thing sounds crazy to Sid, but the goblins seem positive that Quick Things was a prophet from the future sent to fix history. What makes this situation even worse is he claims that the battle for the future's already been won, at least according to the Enigma Codex. It's depressing to think about it, but it would explain why Quick Things seems to already know what you were going to do. And if it is true, it will make your entire fight with the Illuminati pointless. Backrix thinks all of this talk is nonsense, and he's more interested in hearing your plans on dealing with the current situation. Y'shtola and Sid had been getting things set up for their final assault, with the help of Matoya of course, when the cat Midday had been following had came into the cave and acted like it wanted them to follow it. They had, and it had led them right to the Illuminati spy. It was a happy coincidence, but since the tiny cat's been with Quick Things constantly, Sid refuses to believe that it turned on its master at random. Either it switched sides, or Quick Things is setting you all up. If the thing could talk, Sid would want to question it, and since it can't really hurt to try, he tells the cat to meow twice for yes and once for no. Then he asks if it's Quick Things' cat. It actually answers yes, so Midday asks if it wants to go back home, and it answers no. That makes Sid start to think that it really can understand them. However, that doesn't mean that she's not still working for Quick Things. While that may be true, Backrix remembers Round Rock saying that she had saw a black cat watching her 3 years ago when she had first found the piece of the Enigma Codex. That had seemed like useless information back then, but now Backrix is starting to wonder if Shanoa is the exact same cat. But if it had been, then it would be full grown by now, unless it somehow jumped through time. It all sounds ridiculous, even to Y'shtola who suggested it, but it can't be ruled out, and if that's the case, it could mean that Quick Things has been manipulating things as far back as Midday's first summoning of Alexander, which means you're all likely screwed. Talking about the problem's not really doing anything to fix it, so Sid thinks that your best option is to just head back into Alexander and see what you can find. And Wedge being Wedge, he's made something that should help you get through the barrier and back into the Primal. He's running the last tests on the device now, so the Warrior of Light and the others head off to meet him. Wedge knows that he went a little overboard with the last invention, but he's positive that his next one will work exactly how it's supposed to. The plan is simple. You'll be attacking the Primal from two angles again. Y'shtola's working on cutting off Alexander's ether supply, while the Warrior of Light's going to go and rescue Round Rocks. Without her, the Illuminati won't be able to control time, so that'll even the playing field, hopefully. You'll be heading in through Alexander's head with the help of Wedge's new device, something that he's named Barrier Be Gone, which is supposed to, you guessed it, remove Midday's barrier. The problem is, once the barrier's gone, Alexander will be free to move, so you'll need to do what you're doing fast, or things are going to go wrong very, very quickly. Sid's gonna fly you as close as he can to the top of the Primal, then you're gonna go in and clear the way for the rest of them. Once you've done that, you need to get back to the ship so Wedge can turn the barrier back on. All of that needs to be done before Alexander can move, so no pressure. This is hardly the most dangerous thing that the Warrior of Light's done, so he and his adventurer buddies head in. Once the barrier drops, they all rush in, fighting against swarms of goblins as they make their way to the top of the Primal and inside, where even more of the Illuminati's toys try to bar their way. Toys that the Warrior of Light takes great pride in destroying. With the path into the top of the Primal clear, Sid and the others reactivate the barrier, leaving the top of Alexander's head outside, which gives you a way back in to make your next attack once you're ready. Ishtola's glad to see that at least one of your missions was accomplished. Cutting off Alexander's ether supply didn't work at all, and she thinks Midday might be able to help her understand why since she summoned the thing. All primals constantly draw ether from the surrounding land, both to make themselves stronger and to keep their physical forms. She and Matoya had figured that they could create a barrier between the land's ether and Alexander using some device called Arcanima that she had Sid put around the area. The devices are working fine, but for some reason Alexander isn't being hindered by them at all. Midday may know why, but she can't fully see how it'll matter all that much. When she was younger, a man that she didn't know came up to her and told her that anything she wanted could be hers if she listened to him. A grown person telling a random kid that should be a big old red flag, but not all kids are given the stranger danger talk. They definitely should be, especially with all the crazies running around now. If Midday's parents had told her not to talk to strangers, we probably could have avoided dealing with the cult and their time-traveling primal, but they didn't, so here we are. She didn't understand what the man was talking about, but he had told her to reunite the shards of the Enigma Codex and perform the sacred rite before the ruins that stand against the river's flow. Then her hopes and dreams would all become a reality. After that, he gave her a horn to use as a catalyst for the summoning and told her that it was a gift from Travanchet. Then he left. Ishtola's had some run-ins with the man before, and as you may have guessed, he's an Ascian. The horn was supposedly a relic with the power to manipulate ether in the air. The Scions had hunted it for a while since it could be deadly in the wrong hands, and if it's being used by Alexander's third core to draw ether, then there's no way to stop it from drawing ether from anywhere on the star. That means you'll just have to break the core the old-fashioned way, but that won't stop the Illuminati from simply rewinding time to undo everything you've done. All in all, nothing's changed. Your only course of action is to save Round Rocks. The Circle of Knowing had given Ishtola the mission of recovering the horn, and not only did she fail, it was her failure that caused it to fall into Travanchet's hands. She feels that this incident is as much her fault as anyone else's, so she's more than willing to help in any way that she can. Which means it's time to rescue Round Rocks, or at least to try. From above, Quick Thinks is watching you all like he still knows what you're planning, and oddly enough, Backrix notices that his tiny black cat is still with him, which means that the one that's standing next to you all couldn't be his. So he decides to rename it Schrodinger. That's a very on-the-nose thing to name the cat, and if you don't know why, it's a little bit of real-world lore that I guess I will go into. Schrodinger's cat in simple terms is a thought experiment done by Erwins Schrodinger, where you hypothetically put a cat in a box with radioactive material that may or may not be released after a certain amount of time. After a while, as long as the box isn't open, the cat exists in two states at the same time. It's both alive and dead. It'll stay like that until someone opens the box to definitively prove that the cat is in one state or the other. Now you can figure out on your own what that means in regards to this story. Regardless of how weird the cat situation is, Biggs and the others did get a good look around the inside of Alexander, which let them figure out where Round Rocks is being kept. She's in the central core, and from what Biggs could see, all you'll need to do is ride one of those floating platforms there. Of course they'll be guarded, so the Warrior of Light will head back in through Alexander's head, while the others travel through Midas to make sure the Illuminati don't have any traps waiting to ambush you. Once you've gotten your hands on one of the platforms, Biggs and Wedge will do what they do best and cause a distraction. With all the talking done, you all get to work. As expected, there's no small amount of goblins working hard to stop you from interfering with their plans, and their tech and fighting skill makes things a little bit difficult. But after taking down the mercenary named Lame Brick Strikebox, the Warrior of Light has a clear path to Round Rocks. Ishtola, Sid, and Midday had to deal with a few goblins of their own, but it wasn't too much trouble, and you all find Round Rocks safe and sound sitting in a chair right next to the Enigma Codex, directly above the third core of Alexander. The amount of ether Ishtola can see pumping through the core is outright terrifying, and all that power has been being used by Round Rocks, which has made the little goblin a little unstable, but it has given her the ability to alter time. Hearing that it really is true, Midday wonders out loud if she genuinely could fix her mistakes from 3 years ago. So Round Rocks, trying to be a good friend, decides to help and activates Alexander, spinning time backwards despite everyone telling her not to. Biggs, Wedge, and Backrix get a front row seat for the trip since they're on top of the primal, and they're pretty shocked when Sid tells them that they're being sent back in time. They appear along with Alexander right at the moment when Midday and her friends were summoning the primal. They're excited because they think that what they're doing worked, but it's short-lived because Alexander activates and the Illuminati shoots Midday's friends. Alexander starts trying to suck Midday inside, but Dayan pushes her out of the way, getting sucked into the primal in her place. Backrix finds the whole thing fascinating, and he's writing it all in his book until Schrodinger knocks it out of his hands, and both the cat and the book fall off of the primal right as Midday of the past activated her barrier. Whatever Round Rocks did ends, and you're all snapped back to your own time, and QuickThink shows up to brag about how once again you've done exactly what was written. Ironically enough, it seems like Sid and the others still haven't figured things out, so QuickThink decides to break it down for them. Time is a circle, or a wheel, and everything you've done or will do has already happened, and you're just completing the loop. In other words, when Midday and her friends summoned Alexander 3 years ago, what they had actually seen were you all traveling back through time. Hearing that makes Midday realize that what had happened to her and her friends was destined to happen, and there was never anything she could have done to fix it. More goblins show up, so Ishtola decides that it's time to retreat since you do have Round Rocks, but knowing that everything she's done is pointless, Midday decides to stay behind. There's nothing you can do about it right now, so you all head out before you get captured, or killed. Biggs and the others are happy to see Round Rocks, but now that Midday's with the Illuminati, Round Rocks wants to go back for her. Sid had never planned on leaving the woman there, but first you all need to make a plan, so they call Jesse to pick them up. The day brought a lot of painful revelations, especially since the Illuminati had planned out everything from the incident 3 years ago to now, and they had used all of you to do it. But worst of all, the one thing that had kept Midday going was a hope of seeing Dayan again, and now she knows that'll never happen because there's definitely nothing left of the man. This whole mission has been going poorly, but it's not a complete loss. You saved Round Rocks, and without her the Illuminati can't turn time backwards, which means it's time to destroy Alexander's final core, and this time it should be permanent. With the risk of everything you do being undone dealt with, the Warrior of Light and his allies head to Alexander's final core. The defenses that the Illuminati have put in place are top-notch, complete with the Cruise Chaser, which is the Illuminati version of the Transformer Starscream, an amount that really should have been a reward for this fight instead of something that's put on the Mog Station. After destroying the Illuminati's very expensive machine in a fight that Sid and the others watch from a safe distance away, you all get an up-close look at Alexander's third core, and Sid sees just how massive it is. For it to get that big, it must have been drawing in ether at a super fast rate, and with the power that it's stored up, it'll probably be able to regenerate itself even faster than you can break it. Instead of wasting time trying, Sid figures that since the control room has a way to control the primal, it should have a way to turn it off too. Of course, that'll mean bringing Round Rocks back since she's the only one who can use the Enigma Codex. It's not something that any of you really want to put her through again, but QuickThink needs to be stopped, and you can't really think of another way. Speak of the devil and he will appear, and sure enough, QuickThink shows up with his book and cat in tow, claiming that the future shows that things are going to end very badly for you all regardless of your plans. All other passages to the control room are blocked, so to get there you'll have to go right where QuickThink wants you to, and his predictions say that you all die on your attempt. He goes to float away, but as he does, his cat knocks the book out of his hand and falls down in front of you all, similar to what happened with Backrix. Backrix picks up the book that QuickThink has been carrying around, and he realizes that it's actually his journal, the one that had been knocked out of his hand when you all took a trip to the past. So the entire time, the only reason QuickThink has known what was going to happen was because he had the book that Backrix had written about your whole mission. In other words, he's not a prophet at all. All of his predictions came from the book. Granted, this book thing is a big time paradox in itself since QuickThink couldn't have gotten the book until after Backrix wrote the book, but the things that Backrix wrote in the book were a direct result of what QuickThink did after having the book. But since thinking like that would give all of us a headache, we're just gonna let this little time snafu slide. What's even more confusing than the book is why Shanoa, who is also Schrodinger, set all of this nonsense into motion. For starters, the cat should have died from falling off of the primal, but fall damage has only killed like 3 people in the game so far, so I can let that part slide too. QuickThink must have found the cat when he found the book, and he decided to take her in, but that still doesn't explain why the cat is causing all of these time shenanigans by knocking the book around so much. Figuring that out won't help with dealing with Alexander's core, and that's the only thing that Sid is concerned about at the moment. And since the pages in the journal don't say anything about you all dying on your trip to the control room, Sid is ready to get things set up to destroy Alexander for good, so you all head out to get prepared. Things are not as good as you may think, however. Even though Quick Thinks lost the book and Round Rocks, he's apparently had the power to use the Enigma Codex all along, and he activates it so he'll be ready for when you come back. Once you're all as prepared as you can be, the Warrior of Light, Sid, Biggs, and Wedge head back into the Primal to attack the core. Quick Thinks is ready for you all, and he stops time, summons a smaller version of Alexander, and sets it to fire on you all while you can't move. Time restarts, giving you all just enough time to avoid taking a point-blank Kamehameha to the face, which would have definitely murdered you all. Since the sneak attack failed, the mini Alexander vanishes into a rift in time, one that stays open. Instead of waiting around for it to reappear and hit you all with another sneak attack, one that you might not be able to dodge, the Warrior of Light heads into the rift to fight it, while Sid and the others clear a path to the control room. Fighting this thing that's the embodiment of Alexander's power is not something easily overcome. The Primal takes this fight as a test to determine whether or not you deserve to have a future, which if you fail, I'm pretty sure that you'd be dead, so you don't really have a choice but to win. Which of course you do. When the Warrior of Light pops back out of the rift, Istola and Round Rocks both have joined Sid and the others. So with the way clear, you all head into the control room, where Quick Thinks is more than happy to reveal that he has always been able to control the Primal, so nothing can stop him from rewinding time. A surprisingly still alive Midday makes her entrance by shooting Quick Thinks' guards, and since he revealed that he can control the Codex without Round Rocks, she understands why he had used the girl instead of doing it himself from the start. Controlling the Primal at full power could very likely destroy the person who tried, so he hadn't wanted to risk his own life until he didn't have a choice. But he is controlling it now, and he thinks that nothing can stop him, so Midday proves him wrong by shooting him in the head. With him down, that gives Round Rocks the chance to undo what Quick Thinks has started and shut down the Primal's final core. Without it constantly drawing in ether, Alexander has started burning through what it had stored pretty fast, and it won't be long before it shuts down and fades away entirely. Something none of you want to be around for, but before you head out, Round Rocks wants to know how did Midday survive after you all left? She's not all that sure herself. The place had started shaking and she'd gotten thrown somewhere dark. She had been unconscious there until a few minutes ago. She had probably gotten knocked down a garbage chute or something, but all that really matters is that she's okay. With the mission a success, it's past time for you all to head home. But of course things can't possibly be that simple, and what should have been a very dead Quick Thinks reaches out and activates the Enigma Codex again. Apparently he had done a lot of tinkering on his own body, and what you had thought was a weird looking mask turns out to actually be his head. A head that can survive a point-blank gunshot. The Goblin reactivates the core and attempts to use Alexander's power to go back to the past, but the Primal decides not to obey him, something that it's apparently been able to do all along. It also does something that you failed to do, and finishes off Quick Thinks. It makes Sid think that the Primal has a mind of its own, which it does, and just like Midday had thought, that mind belongs to Dan. He's really been in there the whole time watching over her, but the two of them only get to talk for a moment before the core overloads and starts to draw in ether so fast that Istola's afraid that it'll drain Eorzea dry in a few minutes if it's not stopped. With it being in the state that it's in, she doesn't think that any of you can stop it now. But Midday thinks that this was all part of Dane's plan, and she realizes what he wanted her to do, and that is throw herself into the core. She merges with it, and she tells you all to leave as she's drawn into what Dan calls Alexander's dream. It's a place outside of time where Alexander watches the past, present, and future, seeing each and every possible outcome for every situation. And since he's a part of the Primal, Dan sees it all too. Since Alexander was born from the desire to create a perfect world, it's watched everything unfold to see what path would give the result that it wanted. It saw everything from the Illuminati ruling things to what would have happened if he had stepped in and stopped Dalamud. And after studying every possible outcome, it realized that the only chance there was for a perfect world to be born was if Alexander himself ceased to exist. So it decided to erase itself, since the amount of ether that it consumes by just existing would eventually destroy everything. So instead of taking that risk, it decided to leave the fate of the world in the hands of the Warrior of Light. Having seen him in action, Midday can understand why. Knowing that he would eventually be the source of a major calamity, Alexander sent the cat Shanoa out to put time back on the right path. With that done, there's only one task left. Since the horn was a part of the third core of Alexander, it would be able to regrow itself instantly by drawing in ether from all around the world. The only way to stop it is to seal it away in a moment in time that would loop forever and ever. And that will trap Midday and Dan as well, something she's perfectly fine with. Outside, Biggs and Wedge notice that everything inside of Alexander's barrier has stopped moving, like time's frozen in place. Round Rocks and the others have made their way back to Idleshire, and while none of them are happy about Midday's fate, she did stop Alexander, so that's a good thing at least. Round Rocks is of course taking this hard, and she runs off somewhere so you all go to track her down. It's not hard to find her since she isn't exactly hiding, she just wanted to be alone to think. When you all were running out of Alexander, she had found the glowstone in her pocket, but it won't glow for her anymore. Sid thinks it's because the experience that she had with the Illuminati changed her view of the world. The Enigma Codex was made from one man's desire to build a perfect world, and its knowledge is sealed off from anyone who doesn't fully believe in what it promotes. Both Quickthinks and Midday, when she was younger, never questioned the teachings of the Codex, but after what happened, Round Rocks can't really blindly follow anything anymore. The glowstone staying dark in her hands is a sign of her growing into adulthood. That doesn't mean she has to quit dreaming of a better world, but it's time for her to start working on building it with her own hands. Since she was working on that anyway, she's perfectly fine with that. She just wishes she could give the glowstone back to Midday since the woman had liked it so much. But with time being frozen inside of the barrier, that would be impossible. Except for the fact that the cat Shanoa shows up again, and she's been able to come and go freely within Alexander with no problems. Since it can't really hurt to try, Round Rocks gives the cat the stone and lets her take it to her friend, while you all wonder if Midday will ever find her way out of Alexander. They do have access to every moment in time, so they may find one where they can step out and live their life without Alexander potentially destroying the world. But for now, Ishtola and Sid both have their own stuff to do, so they head off, but not before Ishtola hands you a book that Backrix has been looking for. Since you like delivering stuff, she figures that you won't mind. The goblin's happy to get the book, but he's surprised when he reads about a tribe from a long time ago, founded by two people who stepped out of a giant machine with a glowing stone in their hands. And their names were Dan and Midday. So apparently they found their perfect world somewhere deep in the past, and they managed to get Round Rocks' gift too. This concludes the story of Alexander. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and donate to the channel so I can keep bringing you guys new content. Until next time guys, later.